up today on the Wells Report.
America is great because Americans are good. It's the land of opportunity. And Texas is where our shared values of faith, family, freedom, and free enterprise shine the brightest. We have to restore confidence in the American dream, restore our boldness, and remember what makes America special. I'm Craig James, and I approve this ad because we need more freedom, not more government.
Craig James, conservative for U.S. Senate.
Now, News Talk 660 KSKY proudly presents the Wells Report with Jon-David Wells.
And Mr. Craig James joins us here on the Wells Report on News Talk 660 KSKY, running for U.S. Senate. Joining us on the Wells Report on News Talk 660 KSKY, Mr. James. Craig, welcome to the Wells Report.
Good to be here with you here. You go by JD, right?
Yeah, I do.
I heard that. Now, Saturday night, you did a phenomenal job as the Master of Ceremonies at the Lincoln Reagan dinner up in Denton County. It was awesome. A huge crowd.
It was. I was nervous. Well, you know how it is. I mean, you spend most of your time, in rock throwing range. Most of the time, I'm safe behind this glass, and I got people. It's like, but that was daunting to sit there and look into the faces of all those people, and realize that what you were saying was apparently at least semi-entertaining-ish.
You did a good job. You were funny.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Craig. I appreciate that. You are running for United States Senate. You are a conservative, and you have shown up just exactly at the right time, because, boy, do we need conservative politicians in just about every office in the land.
Well, and I didn't just wake up with these thoughts. I've been a conservative Christian my entire life. I didn't just assume this title so that I could run for the United States Senate. I believe in these things. I believe in our country. I believe in the Constitution. And so now that I'm going out and around the state, meeting with groups and talking with them and sharing my personal side, it's resonated.
Yeah, it certainly has. By the way, we'll be up on justin.tv/the Wells Report in just a couple of moments. Craig James, Craig James. He's a man of deep conviction. He is a ranch owner in Texas. Property rights, a huge issue, not just in Texas, but just about everywhere. But here, you've been spending a lot of time in the real estate industry, and you know just how dear this land is to the heart of the people that owns it.
Absolutely. And as a rancher, really understanding the challenges of the farmers, of the cowmen. I've been in the hay business for a number of years. It's tough, especially when it doesn't rain to produce hay.
Sure.
So, you're out there, and I've been on Real Street. I keep calling it Real Street, and that's because that's where I come from, and I get it. I understand the challenges of people. I don't need someone to walk into my office or to have a town hall meeting to explain to me what uncertainty from government does to the business sector. Our assets are outstanding, but right now, the assets are kind of frozen up in this state and this country because of uncertainty. So the buyers and the money is on the sidelines.
And it's going to stay that way until something changes in Washington, D.C., because you cannot run a country like ours with a $16.4 trillion national debt for long, and people are just not going to do anything until Washington grows up a little bit and figures out how to handle its affairs.
I keep thinking that we need to put the genie back in the bottle, the federal government back into its limited role. And when you do that and you get down to the real basic requirements of the federal government, put all the other things that interest into the states' rights, let us decide what's best here, like education and local school districts determining how we educate our kids, then we've got a chance. Then we're able to get rid of all of the massive spending, the redundant spending, the wasteful spending. We can cut that out of the equation and begin to chip away at this massive debt that we have.
Craig James, our guest, candidate U.S. Senate in the state of Texas. He wants your vote. He wants to go to Washington, D.C. as a U.S. Senator, and you can ask him a question. 866-660-KSKY, 866-660-5759. We will be taking questions here in just a couple of moments on News Talk 660 KSKY. Reducing the size of the American government, not an easy task. Some people say it's impossible, but as a senator, you would have an opportunity to at least stop ideas from becoming reality. Talk to us about how you would plan on reducing the size of this government. How are you going to get past your fellow senators?
Well, I'm going to go out and I'm going to be able to talk with that Real Street perspective from a common sense standpoint, fresh perspective from the battle line, coming right to it. And so when I get in there and I look at what each department is doing, and I look at the wasteful spending, I'm able to say on a first person with conviction, because I'm living in that right now. Right now, we spend $1.7 trillion a year adhering to federal regulations. That's taking money from small business owners like me. That takes away from the service sector. So when you're adhering to government, you're not adhering to being sympathetic to people who want a job. job and want to keep their job. So I will absolutely have that fresh perspective and understanding of what's taken place.
We are discussing the future of the United States of America with Craig James. Like I said, your calls 866-660-KSKY. Please, questions only for Craig James. All right. So let's talk a little bit about your faith. Let's talk about what that brings to America. Last week, we spent a lot of time discussing whether the enlightened, human intellect first, secular, atheist way had given anything to this country that was good. And nobody could come up with a single thing. Nothing. So do you believe that the United States is the pendulum swinging back toward a more faithful country based on the Judeo-Christian principles that it was founded on?
There's nothing to suggest that. I mean, I think we're moving away from the Christian values and principles and the moral fiber of this country. And, I have this real goal in life, and that is that when I meet my Maker, that he says, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." So everything that I do is trying to obtain that goal. And I'm not sure that we have a majority now who are trying to do that on a daily basis. And that's concerning for me. And that's where my position and my stance comes for life. If I do get to Washington, I've got the Ten Commandments on the left. That's one sideline, and that's my moral backbone. And the Constitution over on the other sideline. You stay within those two parameters, and leaning on that, you got a chance to make the right decision.
Big time football jargon analogy there.
I understand it.
866-660-KSKY, 866-660-5759. Okay, so you talk about your faith, and you talk about how you are perceived or want to be perceived when you're standing before the Lord on Judgment Day. You brought up last week about people that live a different life than you, or I, or most of the people that I know who live a gay life. And you believe that gays will have to answer to the Lord. And that made national news. Why do you suppose it made national news? And what do you think about it now that people from the left of America, kind of reached out and said, "Excuse me, what did you think about that entire experience?"
Well, half of that headline was correct. The other half that wasn't put in there is that I, too, will have to answer to God for my actions. We're all free to choose on a daily basis a path. One way is God's way. The other way is our way. And I do believe that all of our actions, we will be accountable to the Lord. Now, the choice and the freedom to go do that is there. For me personally, when I said that I would not march or ride in a gay parade, I mean that. I'm not going to condone a sin. And homosexuality is a sin. We all have these tendencies towards sin. Genetically, it's there for all of us. And it maybe not homosexuality, it could be adultery, it could be a number of other things. You have to act upon it. And I've chosen, and I try to act upon the Lord and what he has for me.
There are a lot of people that take that path and end up being found out as, for example, Newt Gingrich being found out as somebody who doesn't necessarily, stick to that very difficult path, because it is a very difficult path, and the temptations are many.
Amen. And since I was 17, I've lived in a glass house, and I've leaned heavily on the Lord to sustain me and hold me up. I'm not trying to become America's pastor here. I'm not. I'm just trying to stick to my core values and what I believe in. I want to be biblically correct, not politically correct. And that's a big difference.
Yeah, well, this is, by the way, the gold buckle of the Bible Belt, and people like faith here. I mean, when people go to church here. And say that last statement again, because I kind of walked on it. I want you to say that last statement again.
Well, I want to be biblically correct, not politically correct.
Yeah.
And, and I think, that helps me with the decisions I make. And furthermore, here's what I'm really doing, JD. I'm out there, and I'm trying to support the values that made America great for nearly 250 years. And that was in a home, a man and a woman, Adam and Eve raising a child if the Lord so blessed them with that. That's one of the pillars that has made this country great. So why would we get away from that? That's a proven success model. I know the other model doesn't work.
Indeed. 866-660-KSKY, 866-660-5759. Craig James, our guest, former host for ESPN, and now U.S. Senate candidate for the state of Texas. He's serious about it and would like to answer your questions. 866-660-KSKY, 866-660-5759. He's a Collin County rancher. He raises hay. Yeah, he raises hay, man. And it's been tough, huh?
Last year with the droughts and the wildfires, we went from being substantial conventional hay provider to a fraction, maybe a tenth. And that was with an irrigation system pouring water to it every day. It just couldn't grow the grass.
Wow, man. Unbelievable. Yeah, that what was it, a couple of months at 108 degrees every day?
Yeah, and the cracks got wider and wider, and the dirt tanks dried up, so then the cattle were in trouble. So it's a challenge. The farming and the ranching business is tough.
Yeah, he walks down Real Street, not Wall Street. He walks down Real Street. Craig James, our guest. Call us with your question. 866-660-KSKY, 866-660-5759. Back with more with Craig James.